Joining us again on Flow FM is Rabobank's Regional Manager for South Australia, Roger Matthews. Roger, good to have you back with us on Flow.
Thanks, Ricky. Good to be here.
Good to check in with you in how farmer confidence is travelling, not just in SA, but potentially in the northwest of Victoria as well. And look, I wish it was a happy story, but farmers are lacking a little bit of confidence. Is that where we're heading?
Well, I'm not sure I see it as a negative story. So the confidence survey has dropped a little bit, but you know what? It's been so good for so long that I think farmers' expectations are, could the prices come back on commodities? Yes, they could. Could the season be as good as what it's been recently? Perhaps not. So a couple of negative components, and the questions are, do you expect things to improve? The truth is we've had a really, really good story through late spring and a really strong harvest and really good commodity prices. So it's almost when things are as good as they've been recently, can you expect them to improve further? Probably not.
And what are some of the indicators that have dented some of, the confidence, if we call it maybe a correction in confidence, if we put it that way? Yep. What have been some of those influencing factors?
Well, commodity prices have been a factor, as have rising rates. So rates have moved quickly over the last 12 months or so. And it's probably the combination of those together with what you'd say the season and the spring, particularly last year, was really, really kind and really, really extended. So it's probably the combination of all of those factors.
And what are farmers flagging in terms of when they're looking forward? What could be, a positive or downward movement for them in terms of confidence looking at the farming economy?
Well, I think the farming economy, so there's probably a few things there. One commodity price, and commodity prices will say across the grain complex, but you'd also say across wool, sheep meat and beef as well. There's probably been some tapering off there. If you have a look at international markets for grain right now are probably actually below where levels were prior to the Russia invading Ukraine, which seems a little bit odd. You would actually think with that conflict going on right now that actually grain prices would still be at higher levels. So there could be opportunities that we actually see a spike in grain prices in over the course of the next few months. But it's always very, very hard picking the markets exactly.
Yeah, one of the big fish in that export market seas is China. I spoke with the Trade Minister, Don Farrell, earlier. He was telling us that in a recent trade meeting, the Chinese Trade Minister said the freeze is over and a new spring is upon us. So maybe for our barley exporters and wine exporters, there might be some positivity on the horizon there.
Actually, it's a good point, and I'd even say, Riverland, Mildura and the likes, where table grapes are a big crop as well, is that there does seem to be renewed activity, renewed interest from China. So it's a great point.
And just lastly, you mentioned Mildura there. Is there a similar sentiment you're picking up in the northwest of Victoria?
Well, I'd say across the Mallee, whether it be Mallee, South Australia, Mallee into Victoria, Wimmera and right up into Mildura as well, that confidence is quite high. And of course, for all those irrigators that are on the Murray, the water supply situation is looking so strong for the next few years that confidence is building there. So it's a good story. Look, I'd say in a technical sense, we've seen confidence dip, but I'd say it's coming from a very high level. So overall, the economy for agriculture is really, really strong. We have very strong balance sheets, and I think it's a good story.
Yeah, that's a good note to finish on. So maybe not such a gloomy picture after all, but good to speak with Roger Matthews. He is the Regional Manager for South Australia and up into the Mallee of Victoria. Thanks for joining us today on Flow.
Thanks very much, Ricky.